We're always driving to dance lessons. So we signed up for Know Your Drive. We save money and get closer to her dancing dreams.
The daring young man on the flying trapeze.
Or maybe her singing dreams. Sign up for Know Your Drive and save up to 20%. American Family Insurance. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly.
Products not available in every state. Discount terms apply. Visit amfam.com/knowyourdrive for details. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Hey guys, this is Gail Kim from Impact Wrestling, and you are listening to the 8-Bit Suplex Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know you've been waiting a long time for this one. Well, we're back. It's 8-Bit Suplex on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We've had some technical difficulties, some scheduling issues here and there, but with me as always, we're able to work it out this week, which is good because it's been a busy week of Impact Wrestling, and we do want to talk about a little bit of what we're looking forward to with video games this year. But joining me as always, Miss Sandy Gaviria. Hey Sandy, how are you?
Hi, Josh. How are you?
I'm good. I'm running on Bang Energy, and that's it right now.
Oh my God.
I started. I went back to school and last semester, and this semester has just started, and my schedule is all over the place. Plus working full time,
Oh
plus
my
wife
gosh.
and kids, whole 9 yards. But hey,
That
that's
is
what
crazy. Props to you.
Well, thank you. But I'm not the only one having a busy week. You're getting ready for a big Saturday here.
I am. It's my first match back since, Corona hit and impacted, not, no pun intended. Damn it, that impact word. Since it affected all of us. So, oh my gosh, I made my debut almost a full year ago. So yeah, making my way back to the ring, doing a live show in front of a crowd, which would be exciting. We're being safe, but yep, getting that training in, making sure that I can still go.
That's awesome. I plan on being there in attendance. For the people
Yay!
that don't know about it, Sandy, it's at Retro Rat, which is a collectible store in Clearwater, or is it Largo? What's the mailing address? I think it's Largo.
But they're
Yeah,
pretty much the same thing, right?
It's right there on the border of Largo and Clearwater. Here, if you're local in Florida listening to this podcast, definitely come check it out. It is a
Hell yeah.
charity fundraiser, if I understand it. Is that right, Sandy?
Correct. So it's a free show. Donations are encouraged. So we're actually raising funds to support the research of CTE, which is something that impacts, damn that word again, I hate myself, wrestlers and football players and hockey players. So still lots of unknown about it, but we're just trying to raise some money for the research of it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I'm excited to be there. Of course, socially distanced and masked, as always.
Of course.
We're not out of it yet, folks. We're not there yet. We're getting there. Vaccines are rolling out. I know a few people that have both sets of shots. Things seem to be going good. So, but still, until that point, continue to stay safe. With that said, Sandy, I think we got to start this thing off with the most maybe anticipated Impact pay-per-view in I don't know how long.
Since like Bound for Glory, I want to say.
Well, I mean, maybe Bound for
Or
Glory 2015. I don't think there's been as much buzz around an Impact pay-per-view as this one, and it is a pretty loaded card.
it was so I was really looking forward to. Did you get to see it live? I gotta ask you a few questions first.
No, I did not see it live. My addiction to ice hockey took over, and I was actually at hockey playing. And then when I got home, I watched the first 2 hours of it, and then the third hour Sunday morning. It
Oh,
was, yeah, because by the time I got home, and I just couldn't manage the 3 hours at that point. But I enjoyed just about every bit of it. I will say I did not catch the pre-show match between Josh Alexander and Brian
oh
Myers.
my gosh. Me either, but I actually meant to go back to watch it. I completely forgot until you just mentioned it.
Well, those are the
Josh
same.
Alexander, oh my God, I bet that was a fantastic match.
I'm sure it was too. And Josh Alexander, of course, now without a tag team partner, which we'll get into later on in this show, and not too much later on because it was a pretty early on match in the pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, I mean, before we go and break this thing down match by match, Sandy, what was kind of your overall thoughts here on the show?
So I was very excited. I actually got to see it live. And my friends who, we watch wrestling together. We have a couple of different group chats, so it's really cool. They weren't watching Impact like typical wrestling fan. You have your WWE, your AEW, some New Japan here and there, but everyone was for some time we're just like, oh, Impact's still in it, like no. So now with all the buzz, they were able to check out the podcast, which I love them so much for that. So we're over here talking in the group chat, and they were watching live too, and I was like, yay, and getting more and more people tuning into Impact, which is so exciting. Like, I mean, any company, any wrestler, any part of the business that's able to succeed without putting others down, to me, is what it's all about. If we can all
Sure.
succeed, let's freaking do it. So the fact that all these people that haven't watched Impact for many, many years, if not ever, and are now doing so, it's so exciting. Such an exciting time in wrestling for them.
Yeah, no, I
So I
agree
absolutely
and
love the
agree.
show.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It was a show that, for a 3 hour show, I thought it went pretty nicely. Lots of really good
Yeah.
wrestling. Um, there was a couple of surprises sprinkled in throughout the night. Um, and of course, the main event got changed. We don't know yet. I don't think Alex Shelley has made public the reasons why he was unable to participate in the main event. I assume it's COVID related, as we always pretty much assume at this point um, in the world and what we're around when wrestlers just kind of don't show. But I don't want to speculate there. He said he's going to talk about it at some point, and I believe that he will. But Moose was selected to take the place, and I'm not going to jump ahead to the main event as much as I want to because that match was absolutely incredible. We're going to take this thing one by one here, but
Yeah.
but overall, really really awesome. But the kickoff match here, not of the pre-show, but of the actual main card, was the reuniting Crazy Steve and Rosemary to reform their team Decay, taking on Caleb with a K and Tennille Dashwood. This match was a lot better than I expected, and
Dude, yes.
I was watching this, Sandy, and I don't know if you had the same experience as me, but I was watching this going, did they just put face paint on other people and send them out there as Crazy Steve and Rosemary?
Oh my, that's
Because,
exact. I honestly thought that for Rosemary.
yeah, and she changed her hair a little bit, used different paint than she's been
Mhm.
using, and man, they bring out the best in each other somehow. I don't really know what kind of brings that out. This is a much better Crazy
Yeah.
Steve than we've been watching for the past few months, much better Rosemary than we've been watching for the past few months. And I thought it was a pretty damn good match.
I was in shock. It was such a fun match. I was watching it just like, where the hell did these guys come from? Just like you said with Rosemary, I was like, that's not Rosemary. She had different gear, different hair, different makeup. It was still her character, of course, but
Sure.
she looked completely different. So did Crazy Steve. They were spot on, so energetic, crisp. And hey, I also gotta give it to Caleb with a K. The man can go. So he
Yeah.
doesn't. His little character is kind of doofy, and it's just like, all right, get out of here. But the man can go. So it was really interesting too because they had a story there. There was good storytelling between these two because they're such different, very dynamic teams.
Sure.
So we see Crazy Steve. He executes this spinning top rope DDT finisher on Caleb after Rosemary green missed Caleb and after Crazy Steve's green missed Tennille earlier on. So
Hmm.
there was the Japan Grimace made a return to United Impact, but I love the way everything was executed. I love the story that they were telling there between a a team like Tennille and Caleb with a K compared to a team like Decay, night and day opposites.
Oh,
So it was
absolutely.
really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Great way
really
to
good
start the
match.
show.
Yeah, and like you said, Decay picks up the victory, and it was I wouldn't say necessarily a clean victory, but it was a pin in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I like Crazy Steve like put on like it looked like he put on 20 pounds of muscle. Like I can't
He
get
was,
over it how different he looks. And but it's a good thing. I'm being positive here, Steve.
yeah.
Steve, if you're listening, keep it
We
up.
love you guys now, SDK.
But keep it up. Yeah, no, great opener. I thought it set the tone for the night. They brought a lot of energy. And this next match kind of took some of that energy out a little bit because it's got a lot of old guys in it. But we do have cousin Jake, Rhino, and Tommy Dreamer taking on the team, and now recently named Violent by Design, which is
I love
Diener,
that.
Eric Young, and Joe Doring. This, of course, was because it is Tommy Dreamer. Now he has sent me a direct message on Twitter once, and he
Best
didn't say
friends.
this. He didn't say this in his message, but I can read between the lines. Any match that he's in a pay-per-view, it's going to be old school rules. That's just the way it is. It gives him an excuse
Absolutely.
to not have to take as many bumps. It gives him an excuse to swing a kendo stick, and it gives the announce team an excuse to bring up ECW. I mean, quite frankly, especially with Rhino also in
Yeah.
the ring. So, but no, I
It
was
fits it perfectly.
right, exactly. And you know what? I enjoyed every bit of this match until, of course, my friend Tommy brought out the thumbtacks. I hate thumbtacks. I've said it before
Oh
on
no.
this show. I'll continue to say it anytime thumbtacks show up. I don't want them in a wrestling ring. It just, I just don't, I don't know. I don't want them. I think being body slammed hurts enough without landing on thumbtacks. Maybe that's me. I don't know. But Sandy, if someone said that you were going to be in an old school rules match and they were going to be using thumbtacks, would you do it?
Uh, uh,
We'll come back to
I
you on. We'll come back to you on that. You don't have to answer
yeah.
that. I don't want to. I don't want to book you into a. I don't want to book you into a corner, Sandy. I don't want to. I don't. I don't want to do that. But anyways, yeah. I mean, obviously, Violent by Design picks up the win. Um, I thought Joe Doring. This is the best that we've seen him look in an Impact Wrestling ring, and he looked pretty intimidating. Doesn't move around maybe as much as he probably did when he was younger, but the moves that he does are just, I mean, pretty devastating.
Devastating. He's a huge guy. But you know what? For me, the big takeaway here is not a couple of things. So Cody Diener, with this new alliance with Eric Young, it has done absolute wonders for him. He has 100% committed to this new character, and it's working so great. But you know what? I ultimately see this split between Cody Diener and Cousin Jake to be more beneficial for Cousin Jake.
Yeah.
I truly believe he is a star in the making. He has an amazing physique, an
Hmm.
amazing look. From the very little that we've seen him work, he seems very solid in the ring, like technically sound. He can go. He's a big guy. You can see him being a future world champion. So I'm really excited for this year to be able to watch to see how he progresses in the storylines and how he has matches with many different people within Impact and maybe even with some AEW characters as well. I
Yeah.
think he can definitely be a top contender for the world title one day.
I don't think you're wrong there. I mean, especially, this is Impact Wrestling, so I really think that there's a shot that really most of the people on the roster, the Impact Championship doesn't feel unattainable for anyone on that roster. So I think that you can
Mm.
see Jake make a run at that. He was obviously in the Super X Cup, which, unfortunately he got paired up with Davari for his first one. I didn't think that was a very good match. But his second match was much better when he wrestled Ace Austin. So really good match here. A lot of fun. Cage match actually has this one rated higher than the opener. I'd probably put the opener a little bit more over this one if I was into like giving ratings and stuff. But you know, to each their own. But when one tag match isn't enough, you do two tag matches, Sandy, to start off a show. And when two tag matches isn't enough, you do a third, and it's the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Title Tournament Final Match.
We're
That is a
here. It's
mouthful.
happening. How did you? I know. I can't ever say it like that. I'm just like, ah.
I got through it. I'm okay.
You did it. You did. So this was we've seen the tournament throughout. This is the inaugural. Oh, I can't say that. I'm foreign, so don't make fun of me if I can't get a word right. English is my second language, damn it. So yes, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships are making the return. We're crowning new champions tonight. I was very excited about this. I think you said that you, from the get-go, that you wanted or that you saw Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz taking the win, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with Madison Rayne on commentary throughout this whole thing. Um,
Mm.
we've talked about it on the show. Josh Matthews and Madison Rayne, God bless them. Now not the commentary team. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They like to kind of foreshadow, and by foreshadow I mean they kind of tell you exactly what's going to happen 3 weeks from now. And so they had both kind of said, "Oh, I think that Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz are going to be got to be the favorites, right? I mean, they got to be the favorite." And this is a tournament, of course, that has Havoc and Nevaeh, who are a longtime team. You have Deanna, who's the Knockouts champion. She was in the tournament with Kimberly. You have Rosemary and Ty. You have all these teams that, in theory, should be considered as just as high, but they seem to be very high on them, and with good reason. I think they're a really fun team. I think they're both really good. I think the Fire and Flava name and kind of look that they came out in matching gear and things like that, really, really awesome. And I think we're kind of bearing the lead. Of course, Fire and Flava does wind up picking up the win over Havoc and Nevaeh. I thought this was pretty good. Um, I've been critical of Havoc and Nevaeh in the past. Not so here. I thought both teams did a pretty good job here, Sandy.
They did fantastic. And you know what? This was very well executed. They gave them their time to build up a story. And the big takeaway from me here is that Havoc looked like a huge, tremendous star and a giant powerhouse. Oh my gosh, she was in there, just everything that she did was perfectly done. She was exactly where she needed to be. She's the bigger girl in the team. Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan, they're small, they're short, they're
They are.
slim, they're very small. But Havoc, being the big girl, it wasn't lazy. She did all the power moves. She was still running. Oh my gosh, just the way that she looked to me. She hasn't looked this good in a very long time.
Right.
So it's a great match.
That's probably the best Havoc match that we've talked about.
Yeah. She
I
looked
think
tremendous.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And then obviously a great moment with two of the greatest knockouts to ever do it, bringing out the championship belts with Gail Kim and Madison Rayne coming out to the ring and handing them over, having a nice photo opportunity there. Obviously, a lot of emotion for Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. I think this is probably about as good a time as any to talk about the fact that Madison Rayne is no longer with Impact Wrestling. We found that out over the weekend. Kind of sad from an Impact Wrestling watching perspective. I was kind of wondering why they made the change to the new announced team, which is of course Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown, who are fine by the way. It was just kind of like it just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm like, what is Impact announcing that now? And then later on, the stuff Madison Rayne's leaving and going on to do something else, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sad to see Madison Rayne and Josh Matthews off commentary. I enjoyed their commentary. I like Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown fine, but I don't know, the husband and wife tag team. I thought that was kind of funny and kind of quirky.
I thought it was fun too, but a lot of people just hate. So I have a friend who's a huge pro wrestling fan, and he just absolutely hates Josh Matthews' voice and his commentary. And that's been one of the reasons why he didn't watch Impact. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm sure you can overlook that. But he was like, no, I hate it. And so I saw a lot of that hate online too. And I'm like, I think they're fun. I think they did a great job. But the D'Lo Brown and Matt Striker commentary team, it's a very welcome change, especially for those fans that were kind of turned off by the existing commentary team. So I think it was the right choice, especially with all the new eyes and all the new attention now on Impact. They have to move some things around, and I think one of the biggest changes is this commentary team, and I think that'll open up and get more people like, oh, okay, they made those changes. They're doing this with AEW. They're really trying to put their foot down and say, hey, we're here. You must watch us too. We're here in the game of this pro wrestling
Right.
weekly show or whatever you want to call it.
And
So I think it was a good change.
And Stryker is a guy obviously that's been around forever, right?
Mhm.
So he was the Lucha Underground commentator. Obviously, he's worked with MLW. He's WWE, ECW. So I mean, he's a fine commentator. I don't know that I've heard D'Lo on color, but I thought D'Lo did fine. I think they're going to
Oh, yeah.
mesh some on commentary. They're going to be fine. And obviously, I mean, D'Lo Brown is D'Lo Brown. He's charismatic and he's fun and he's lovable, and Matt Stryker's Matt Stryker. I think it'll be fine. At least with Stryker, you'll get a lot of references to Nick Bockwinkel, and I think that anytime he says Bockwinkel on TV, someone must hand him $10 or something, because he brings up Nick Bockwinkel a lot. Like I started noticing, I was like, man, I get it. You like, like I think it's one of those things.
All right.
That Sandy, you and I both worked retail. Did you ever have a challenge put in place by your manager or supervisor of working in a word of the day into your sales pitch? Like you had to use that.
Did that.
Okay, so in my department in computers, we had a thing where it's like every hour, someone wins a soda from the manager, right? He'd penny out a soda. So you would have to carry around this like stress ball, and the person who had the stress ball was the one that won the soda when the time ran out. But you have to use the sales pitch within earshot of someone else using that word of the day. And like he'd come up with ridiculous words. Like like you had to use like chinchilla, you had to use, like how do you use chinchilla when you're talking about computers, right? I feel like that's what Matt Stryker's doing with the Nick Bockwinkel references.
He has a bet with somebody or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
like he's got some bet.
Really
Him and Scott D'Amore have some betting thing like, oh, you can't say Nick Bockwinkel 5 times this broadcast. Oh yeah, watch me.
Bet.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, moving right along here, this was probably the biggest surprise of the night. And I have mixed feelings about this surprise, Sandy. So we have Ace Austin come out to cut a promo. He, of course, is pissed that he, after winning the Super X Cup, isn't even on the card for Hard to Kill. He's saying, how could you leave out your Super X Cup champion? I'm, the best of the best, et cetera, et cetera. And actually, I should be a part of the 3-way X Division title match, make it a 4-way. And he calls out Scott D'Amore. And as we've seen time and time again with our buddy Scott D'Amore, when he comes out from the back to talk to you, it's not going the way that you want it to. And he announces that he has a match for Ace Austin. And it's with someone who is, quote, always ready. Which, of course, means we get the debut in Impact of one Matt Cardona. I don't know
How shocked were you?
So by the time I watched, I was spoiled on a couple of things.
Oh.
Notably, I was not spoiled on this because I don't think anybody cared. No, but he's overshadowed. He's debuting and making a surprise debut on an Impact pay-per-view that is Ethan Page's last night in Impact. Everyone knows it. Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie are having a match. There's a barbed wire massacre match, right? And then
there was a lot happening.
And you have Kenny Omega in the main event of the pay-per-view from another company, right? So all of these things are happening, and then Matt's like, "Here I go," And I would say this, right? Exactly. I don't know who that surprise was for. We of course know that his wife Chelsea Green is a former knockout. But yeah, and I thought when I watched it, I said, this isn't a one-off, because after he wins the match by DQ because Madman Fulton gets involved. He then proceeds to clear out Ace Austin and Madman Fulton single-handedly. And as soon as he did that, I said, oh, Matt's sticking around. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be wrestling in Impact for like the next foreseeable future. and it's basically because of Brian Myers is what I can come up with. But the whole time I was watching it, Sandy, especially when the breakdown started to happen, I was like, oh, here comes Brian Myers from the back to save his buddy. And that never happened. Matt Cardona stood tall in the center of the ring against two of Impact's like up and coming guys that they're trying to like build up and make them look like they're the next thing. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It was a head scratcher for me, Sandy. I'm not gonna lie. No offense to Matt. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He looks like $1,000,000. If $1,000,000 laid too long in a tanning bed, but
Oh.
I had to say it. He's very orange. He just is. Um, but I mean, I don't understand that. And then yeah, well, I guess in this week's Impact, we saw a little bit of a continuation of what's going to happen there. But it seems like he's going to team up with Josh Alexander for a match against Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. We'll see. Ace Austin, Josh Alexander seems to be a feud that they're kind of pushing towards for Josh Alexander's first singles feud, um, which will be fine. I think it'll be good. But you got anything to say
That'll be
about Mac? You got anything to add about Matt Cardona before we move on?
I know, I'm happy for him, and I feel like the way I feel like I always want to cheer. We're a positive podcast, damn it, Josh. I mean, if he gets the opportunity,
I
then
know.
so be it.
I don't think that I was
But
particularly negative. I mean, I'm just
you were on that line, on the precipice of.
I'm towing the line. Don't worry about it.
No, but they protected Ace Austin. Ace Austin immediately got the hell out of there. I think it was
Right.
more like with Fulton, I guess. It was kind of
Yeah.
like, oh shit,
And then
he took him
what
out real
what do they
quick.
call Cardona's thing? The Rough Rider or whatever. He did give one
Yeah,
of those to Madman Fulton.
yeah. So
Uh,
they protected the young star, but I was surprised too when just to see him standing tall. What would be cool though? Instead of him teaming up with like Brian Myers down the road because they're buddies, have them. Brian Myers right now it's a nasty heel, and Matt Cardenas coming in here like. I mean, we saw a promo in this week's episode where he said that he's not here with a chip on his shoulder. I'm just here and I'm gonna do what I want, but like in a very baby face ish
yeah.
type of way. So that'd be cool to see them clash down the road, like two best friends, or I don't know. I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm excited to see him there, and then to see what they have for him.
I don't know. I don't
Like
think you're selling. I don't think you're
wait,
selling. I don't think you're selling me on it. But we'll see. We'll see.
no.
But something that you
I
don't have
was
to.
trying to, and then I'm like, wait, no.
Something that you don't have to sell me on, though, Sandy, is the X Division title three-way match at Hard to Kill here, where the champion Manic defends against Chris Bay, and of course, your man
Mame.
Rohit Raju. This was very, very nearly on the precipice, Sandy, of match of the night. Very near.
It was.
This
Oh,
this
wait.
this was awesome. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I know you loved it, but you know what? Let's tell the audience what did you love about it? What was, I mean, besides all, because it's
Everything. Holy shit! It was so like my mouth dropped. This is nearly. No, this is a 5-star match in my eyes. I don't know what the hell Dave Meltzer does to to rate the matches, but it's a freaking 5-star for me. It was just executed absolutely perfectly. There was a 3-on-3 sequence to start, which was executed just absolutely perfectly. It was the oh no, I'm thinking of this week's. I can't even think about it. They posted a thing online on the Impact thing. I can't even. I'm at a loss of words right now. I'm trying to describe this match to our
sure.
listeners. Holy shit! If you can go and just pick out a couple of matches from the show, it's this one, and of course the main event. We all know the main event was going to be fucking fantastic, but this one, I just dropped an F word for no reason, so it's that freaking good.
No, listen, it is it's really good. And of course, Rohit is still just consumed um, with this whole like I have to unmask TJP because if I unmask him, then he's going to have to give it to me, because he stole it from me, and that's just not the case. Uh, so he does unmask Manic to Joker face paint, basically, and that was kind of weird. But really good match, really awesome. Of course, TJP does, or excuse me, Manic does, does retain. Um, Man, like
And
you
he
said,
pins Rohit for the win too. Oh, like it was right when we were getting to the whole thing of, Rohit had the upper hand right before this unmasking. There was a falsie where Rohit goes for the pin, and I nearly jumped out of my seat because it was that close. They had me so invested in this match. Like
yeah,
when he hit that pin and that falsie hit, I was like jumping up and down. I really thought they were gonna give him the title back, and he is my freaking favorite Impact wrestler. And I was like, yes, he's finally getting what he deserves. But then of course kicks out, and then he goes for the whole mask situation, and then of course stupid TJP Manic whatever
yeah.
Pates Rohi, and I was upset. Boo this man. And then, of course, next on the episode from 119 on Impact, we find out that Scott D'Amore freaking doesn't even care that Manic is TJP. And he's like, yeah, we knew all along. It's like, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Yeah, a
they
little
did my
bit,
man
just a
dirty.
smidge. But it is worth noting it because I don't know that we're going to spend a lot of time covering
Yeah.
backstage segments just because, in the interest of time with the pay-per-view, and then also we got to get to video games tonight, which we will do for sure. But yeah, if you haven't seen Hard to Kill, definitely go and find that match. Next up is another title match. This one pretty solid. It is, of course, the Impact Knockouts title match featuring the defending virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo and, of course, Taya Valkyrie. And we all know how I feel about Taya Valkyrie. We all know that I think she should have won this match, but she didn't.
Oh.
And now, as we record this, about 5 days after Hard to Kill, we now know why Taya Valkyrie didn't win this match. But we haven't had the chance, Sandy, yet to talk about Susan yet. I don't believe.
No.
So let's talk briefly about Susan. Well, you know what? Let's save Susan for the match that she's in from this week's Impact. But
Sounds
so
good.
Deonna Purrazzo is, of course, accompanied to the ring by Kimberly and Susan. Who is Susan, you ask? Susan is Su Young, after whatever ritual Father James Mitchell did. So she's wearing a suit and has her hair up, and it's very strange. And then Taya is, of course, accompanied to the ring by Decay to basically eliminate Deanna's partners. All four of them get ejected from the match, so it's just, uh, 1v1. Really solid match here, Sandy. What do you think?
So I'm not gonna lie to you, Josh. Like the beginning, it really threw me off. The nonsense between everyone on the outside was taken care of quickly, which I'm glad. So they were all expelled from ringside by the ref after the shenanigans from the get go. But it took me off completely because it wasn't just Kimberly and Susan and Crazy Steve and Rosemary. Taya was involved in it. Deonna was involved in it. They were all just kind of beating the crap out of each other, and it started off really weird. Like Kimberly went to attack Taya, and it was just really awkward. And
Yeah,
then commentary didn't help at all because they were like, "What is?" They were saying exactly what I was feeling, and so they were just like, "Come on, what is this? Let's get on to the real match, to what we came here to see." And so I was like, "Oh, why do they have to do this here?"
yeah,
So that took me off. I'm not going to lie. But the match itself, I thought it was good. It was actually one of the weaker matches of the show. I mean, especially following that freaking insane X Division Championship match.
sure.
But they did what they had to do. It was still good. We see Deonna submitting Taya with the double Fujiwara armbar. Is that the one that she calls the Cosa Nostra, or
Yes.
what does she call it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so. Because no, it's the Venus de Milo.
That's the one. Yeah.
The Cosa Nostra is the Gotch style pile driver.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So yeah, so we see her winning with that, and yeah, I liked it. But like I said, it's one of the weaker matches in my eyes,
Yeah.
and I really think it just took me off just from the very beginning. You
Yeah,
know?
no, I get it. It's hard to recover sometimes when they have that outside shenanigans, and then you have to refocus your attention, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, I get it. The next match, and you can't really call it a match. It's of course, the Karate Man versus Ethan Page. This, it's a pretty split opinion, I think, of what I've seen online. Some people really loved it. Some people really hated it. Now,
Mhm.
the weird part about this is that Ethan Page himself is one of the people that hated it. And I don't know if you've seen this, Sandy, but he is actually he was on a live stream, out of kayfabe, of course, and he
Mhm.
complains that Impact kind of sloppily edited together his what he shot and made it look way worse and way more goofy, than he had intended.
Oh.
My question for Julian, um, which is his shoot name, Julian, if it wasn't supposed to be funny, what was it supposed to be?
I, yeah, I'm like, even without the editing, I feel like those clips that he filmed himself would still be goofy as shit. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Sandy,
I don't think there's anything that could be done
he had the
to
Karate
make it
Man,
serious.
do the Liu Kang bicycle kick from Mortal Kombat. I mean, what part of this was not supposed to be goofy? I watched it and
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny. I had a good chuckle at it. Didn't take up too much time. And obviously he was leaving Impact, so the Karate Man, of course, wins by ripping out Ethan Page's heart, which is done off screen. Um, and then he does like the Street Fighter, like walk down the road thing, holding Ethan Page's heart. I thought it was funny. I mean, I didn't have any problem with it. I thought that, I mean, anything Karate Man I've ever seen is not really edited perfectly. I mean, I don't know. I think he's just kind of on it, just saying stuff on his way out. Maybe he didn't like something that's going on backstage. Maybe he clashed with someone backstage in production or something. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I don't know what his problem was with it. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because I saw it. I laughed so hard. I thought it was perfect. Ethan Page, he's a goofy dude. You know, he has his little YouTube show and he's goofy, he's hilarious. So I thought this was very on character to what we've come to know as Ethan Page. So for him to go out and say, "Oh, they did it wrong. They mocked it," or whatever he was saying online,
Yeah,
that kind of throws me off. It's like there's no way this could have ever, no matter how it's edited, that it could be taken seriously because of the reasons that you just mentioned. So to me, that's kind of a bummer. He should have just embraced it. Like,
yeah,
it is what it
I agree.
is.
Right,
I don't know.
exactly. And he kind of started to say too, like, oh, I didn't really want to do Karate Man on Impact. I wanted Karate Man to only be on my YouTube. And I said this to the boys. I was like, he didn't have to do Karate Man on Impact.
No.
That's not an Impact character. They couldn't have forced him to do it. He did it. And, I mean, I feel like there's just a lot of him kind of trying to backtrack a little bit. Is kind of what it feels like. Maybe
Yeah.
due to some of the critical, you know, if people didn't like it critically, then I don't know, man. I felt like it was
Own up
fine.
to it.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. So,
I think so too.
whatevs. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
It bumps me
so
out though, because I really thought he was gonna be like he seems like the type of person that would just be, and this is all speculation because we don't know exactly what happened. We don't know the situation. But if it is something that he did this and he's kind of backtracking because of the negative reaction to it, to me that's just so like, oh, I thought Julian, his shoot name, I thought Ethan Page was just better than that if that is the case. But we don't know. It's
yeah,
all speculation on what we're kind of seeing from him, but
yep.
I enjoyed
And
it. I laughed.
I'm the same. I enjoyed it too. And you
Yeah.
know what? wherever Julian winds up, we'll see him wrestle at a high level again very soon. I am sure, wherever that may be, whether that be in Orlando or Jacksonville or Baltimore for you ROH heads. But we'll see. We'll see.
We
I
shall
can
see.
imagine that he would leave Impact to go to ROH. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Mm.
But it's the wrestling business, Sandy. Stranger things have happened.
Rest in peace, Ethan Page, the
Right.
character.
Because if he shows up in Orlando, you know for sure he's not being called Ethan Page.
No.
Did you see they announced signings today?
I
NXT
did. Oh my God, Priscilla Kelly's name. What was Gigi?
It's Gigi Dolan or Dolan. It's pretty bad.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Ugh.
I'm gonna just pump the brakes there, Sandy, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the NXT name generator being awful, because it is absolutely terrible.
Ugh.
Obviously, you have a PW friend who is at NXT who got a horrible name change as well, and we're not gonna go down that road either. We're just not.
Oh, I like her name.
No, it was better
No,
before. No, it was better
it was.
before.
It was.
But that's always the case. We'll move on though because this match was a lot better than I expected. Um,
Same.
I uh, I kind of allude to this with my comment about thumbtacks. Don't enjoy deathmatch style matches. I
Me
just don't.
either.
I just don't. I think it's not needed in 2021. I didn't think it was needed in 2020, especially with COVID.
Oh
I
yeah.
being busted open in the era of COVID, not a good idea to me. And I am looking at you, Cody Rhodes. But this match, though it had some blood, did not have a ton, which I am more than okay with. Eddie Edwards, of course, and Sami Callihan had their big blow off in the barbed wire massacre match. First, I want to talk about is the ring design itself, because this thing was kind of gnarly looking. They had the chain link fence on just 1/4 of it, with the barbed wire at the top. Then they had a chain holding weapons across from that on the other ring, ring fourth, and then they had barbed wire on the opposite of hard cam side, and then the hard cam side was regular ropes. It was very strange how they set that up. And then in two corners were very thin pieces of plywood wrapped in barbed wire.
I love that ring setup.
It looked like if you were going to set up your like wrestling action figures to do a hardcore match, that's what the
That's what you would do.
that's what the play set from Hasbro would look like, right?
Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was so innovative, and the fact that they didn't have just the entire steel cage, I thought was cool.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever seen that.
I haven't.
So it's like if they wanted to throw each other at a chain link at the freaking kind of like a steel cage, there you go. You have that side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! As soon as I saw it, I was like, are they not done setting up the match, the ring, the cage for it? But that's how it was, and I'm like, that worked out perfectly. I thought it looked fantastic. And like
Yeah.
exactly like you said, like I'm not a death match person like at all. But there is a niche audience for it. And honestly, the way I think Eddie Edwards' character now is that he's a hardcore wrestler. That's his gimmick, and he's doing it so well.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
what
and Sammy
better
also,
way?
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And this was, I was expecting it to just be a bloody mess, but no, they were able to tell a story there. They didn't have to get extremely bloody while still being violent, while still telling a story between the two. And yeah, exactly like you said, this surprised me, and I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I was honestly just initially just going to tune it out, but then I was like, holy shit! All right, okay.
Right,
It was fun.
exactly. I was like, because, Colin, my wife was originally like, oh yeah, you gotta make sure, you watch the pay-per-view with the kids, this and that. I'm like, there's a barbed wire massacre match, and actually, they probably, I think Nolan probably would have been okay watching that, Not that I would necessarily want him to be like watching it, but I feel like
Yeah.
had he seen it, it wouldn't have been like, oh my God, like that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so really good match. Eddie Edwards does pick up the victory.
And hopefully
With
we're done with these two.
I feel like we have to be. The
I
only
swear to
reason why I think that it might linger is because we didn't see Ken Shamrock.
God.
Um,
Oh my God.
and
You're
there's
right. I
no
completely forgot.
Yeah, and there's no real reason for him to have not been a part of it, other than there was news in the week leading up to Hard to Kill that there was some COVID hitting kind of all the wrestling, right? Because everyone lives here in Florida and they all hang out together. And so I don't know if Ken Shamrock was a part of that. To me, again, man, I really hate speculating about COVID and things like that. Um, but it feels like Ken Shamrock probably would have been on the show if he didn't have it because there's no reason for him to have not been.
Yeah.
Um, but he wasn't, and Eddie Edwards gets the win. And he did what was the finishing move he did? It was one of his
Mm.
um, Japanese mentor guys' finishing moves. He did it onto the plywood with the barbed wire wrapped on it. I can't. It's
The
gonna kill me.
driver, the with the
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Crap.
I can't. God, I can't think of it.
It's at the
Um,
tip of my tongue.
I know, because he normally does the Blue Thunder driver, and then he also does the Tiger driver, but it was something else entirely, where he kind of like he wrenched the arms a little bit. It was a really nice move, good finisher, because he hit the Boston Knee Party originally, and that wasn't enough. So then he picked him up and hit him with the driver onto the barbed wire, and then got the pin. Um, really good, really fun match, and really good lead in to our main
The
event.
Minashuko driver,
Yes,
right? Yes. I
yeah,
knew I
it
had it
was
on
a
the tip of my
very
tongue.
yeah, it was a variation on that. It's really good. But
So
yeah,
good.
then we have the main event here, Sandy. The moment everyone in the wrestling world was waiting for.
Dude,
The
I know you didn't watch this live, but like I got chills seeing Kenny Omega come out, and I'm literally watching this like we are watching such a pivotal point in pro wrestling history and Impact history and Kenny Omega's history because he's gonna go down as a Hall of Famer. I think he's nominated for this year or something, right? I
Kenny
mean,
Omega is already in. He got voted into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame
oh,
this
okay.
year.
So then that
Yeah.
already happened.
Yep.
So there you go. So and counting how many other more that he'll be in down in the future.
Sure.
So to me watching this, it honestly it felt like one of those moments like I can't even compare it to anything at the moment. My mind is just blank, but I was watching, I got goosebumps. I'm like, holy shit, like this is history. And I feel like years on the road, it's like, hey, where were you? How were you watching Hard to Kill Impact when this historic night happened? And I don't know, years from now, I'll be like, I was at home watching it at the edge of my seat. That's
Yeah,
supposed to
I
be an
was
old.
I was watching it in on the couch on my iPad the next morning. But I still I still had those same kind of like feelings like because as a professional
Right?
wrestling fan, right? Like I mean you remember like with the Monday Night Wars and everything, like you would think like, oh, like what if this person showed up here? Or what if this person or wouldn't it be cool if these guys wrestled each other, right? And not necessarily that this was a dream match that people thought up of, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Chris Sabin, Moose, and Rich Swann, but the idea that you could have
Still.
this intermingling of promotions and be major promotions that are intermingling, especially AEW, it's just really awesome. It really is. I can't stress this enough. This match, the biggest thing for me, my biggest takeaway from this is that there's not a match I'd rather see right now than Kenny Omega versus Moose. Like,
Oh my god.
I want it
Who
now.
would have thought? Who would have thought that the last person to join this match out of, you know what, honestly, Josh, the way I was thinking it, because I was like, okay, Moose getting involved in this match with Alex Shelley out is actually kind of perfect. And I still think in the back of my head, actually, no, because Alex Shelley wasn't on Impact, the taping afterwards. I thought they did it on purpose because the
Right.
story just makes so much sense. Like, hey, Moose and Rich Swann, after the match that Moose had with Willie Mack, he destroyed Willie Mack in order to get Rich Swann to offer him a title opportunity. Like, that's
Right.
genius and just like devilish, but he
Yeah.
nailed it. And then for him to be put into this match, so that there's huge tension there, and then Moose still being the TNA, the Impact, the company man, says, "Hey, I'm gonna be the best partner you have, bell to bell, to take out those AEW assholes, right?"
Right.
And for him to come in here and give us that Moose came out as the bigger man out of everyone. It was insane what he was doing in that ring. He was moving around like a freaking cruiserweight. He did a standing moonsault. He did over here a Spanish fly with Kenny Omega. Like, what? He looked like a fucking $1
That
million.
that Spanish fly, I on my iPad, on my couch, watching it the morning after, I literally was like, holy shit. Like I literally out loud said, holy shit. Because the idea, first of all, of Moose being that size, he's like 6'8", like 280. To do, I mean, I don't need to tell you, you've been with Moose in person. He's a very large man, and he also looked like he looked like he trimmed up. He looked pretty cut. Um, to do a Spanish fly at that size is just,
Insane.
it's, I mean, it's insane to do a Spanish fly, period. But at that size, and then also with Kenny Omega, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you're going to choose a partner to do one with, Kenny Omega's one to do. But also, like, just the idea, like, because I had thoughts going into it, Sandy, that we might not see a full-on Kenny Omega just because he's the AEW champion. You don't want him getting hurt. But I was happy that he still did spots, a lot of them, by the way, and probably more than the Good Brothers did combined, at least from taking hits. Um, Kenny took that. He also took a lot of the uh, DDTs that Chris Sabin did. Um, Everything just was, I mean, it was awesome. I loved every bit of it.
It was so freaking good. And you know what? It's very rarely that in pro wrestling that we get that big match feel. And there's a reason why that term exists, because with pro wrestling we know it can be hokey. We know there's size differences. We know the storytelling. We're all the smart fans listen to the podcast and want to know what's going on. To get that actual big match feel, like, holy shit, like, this is going to be amazing. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know what's the story is here. And that's exactly what it felt like. There was really no way to guess how this was going to end. There was no way to guess any of that. And it was just 10,000,000% big match feel. And the ending. How shocked were you?
I was not shocked at the winner. I thought the whole time we were going to get a one-winged angel,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not think that we were getting it delivered to Rich Swann, the
Clean
Impact champion,
in,
right in the middle of the ring.
right in the middle.
I don't know of any other scenario where having your champion pinned by another company's champion in a pay-per-view in a multi-man tag match works, but it worked. Like, it was really, like, it got people talking. And it became a talking point, of course, for Don Callis on Twitter later on afterwards. Which, by the way, if you don't follow Don Callis on Twitter, then delete your account because you're doing it wrong. Follow Don Callis on Twitter. But it's just it's such a shocking thing, and this whole thing, everything that they've done with this has been kind of like just pulling out another rabbit out of the hat, right? It's just, you don't know what's coming.
Exactly what it feels like.
You just don't know what's coming, and it plays right into that Don Callis, you know, invisible hand gimmick that he's rocking with, which, by the way, is, of course, a t-shirt now available on Pro Wrestling Tees. If you want your Don Callis shirt, I definitely do. But yeah, really excellent show. What a match to end on. I'll say this, like, if you're familiar with the Grapple app, Sandy, where you can go on and rate matches and different things, Grapple is notoriously harsh on matches. And that match has 4 stars, pretty flat on that app, which a 4-star on Grapple is like, most people would give that like 4 3/4, 5 stars, like in that kind of area. You take away like a half or a 3/4 star from, or you add that back into a Grapple rating, because there are people on there that troll. But 4 stars on Grapple, 8 on Cage Match. So I mean, this thing is, it's getting a lot of really high, really high rated match. Really awesome. Can't talk highly enough about this pay-per-view. And that's what kind of let me down a little bit with this week's episode of Impact, Danny. And we'll transition into that, because I feel like they had so much momentum coming out of the pay-per-view, and we kind of slammed on the brakes a little bit here.
Yeah, you know what? I beg to differ. I
Okay.
really enjoyed this episode coming from Hard to Kill. I think they kept things moving along, especially with the big surprise that we see, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Yes.
But I really thought it was, they Impact. They're doing what they've been doing, which has been working. So it wasn't like, okay, after Hard to Kill, after all these new changes that we're going to keep changing. It's like, no, they're still going to be themselves and continue to make improvements without changing at the core who they are, which to me seems to be working. So that's what I got out of the episode.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's not wrestling heavy, but we do get a very good wrestling match in the main event, which, like you said, we'll get to. We're furthering some storylines. We have a fallout match from the Old School Rules match. We have Eric Young, of course, accompanied to the ring by Diener and Joe Doring, taking on Rhino one-on-one with Cousin Jake at his side. It was an alright match. There's nothing I don't think that really stuck out to me. But Eric Young does pick up the victory, and then they decide to snap Rhino's ankle in a chair afterwards, with Joe Doring delivering the stomp. Anything you want to add here on this one, Sandy?
This one to me is prolonging that storyline, giving Violent by Design that exactly what they are. Hey, they came in here to hurt people. EY wants to cleanse the business. What a better way than to take out Rhino? Because what we see here at the end, once they take out Rhino and hurt his leg after the knee bar finish and the chair with the leg in between the chair, is that he was screaming in pain. Commentary let us know, hey, if we hear an update about Rhino's condition, we'll let you know. So I want to say he's going to be out for a bit to kind of make Violent by Design accomplish something so that they can keep progressing and moving on. We'll see what happens with Cousin Jake, but the damage is done to Rhino. We'll see how this goes. So this is storytelling. Let's go ahead and keep going with these storylines and see where they go.
Yep, for sure. And speaking of storylines, I believe this is the spot in the show where the Good Brothers come out to the ring to cut a promo, interrupted, of course, by Chris Sabin, who says, listen, man, we want your tag titles. And they say, you don't have business taking the tag titles because you don't have a partner. And he says, yes, I do. And he, of course, calls out James Storm, who he tagged with previously when Alex Shelley was unavailable. And, of course, they take the team name of Beer Guns. Of course, the mixture of Beer Money and the Motor City Machine Guns. Mm-hmm. And then after they have a promo together, we hear the screeching guitar, and a name very familiar to Impact audiences, TNA audiences, and quite frankly, wrestling fans around the world, pops up on the Titantron, Sandy. Who was it that showed up at impacted this week?
Matt freaking Hardy. Dude, everyone lost their damn minds. I was watching this live and Twitch went off.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It's totally unexpected. Like you mentioned earlier, another rabbit out of the hat thing. So he interrupts, and he's joined by none other than Private Party from AW. So very interesting. I was like, oh, I was so excited.
Yeah, and it gets better. And obviously, there's a storyline going on in AEW where Big Bunny Matt Hardy, of course, that variation of Matt Hardy is kind of the one he's rolling with now. You never know which Matt Hardy you're going to get really at any given time. He is managing Private Party, and they're kind of working this angle about how he's getting like I think it's 30% of their winnings on AEW, and then he's told them, oh, well, I'm getting half of what you get here because it's third party match. He's just wheeling and dealing and kind of screwing him out of money. At some point, of course, it's going to come to a head, and Private Party is going to kick him to the curb. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves, and that's probably a discussion for an AEW podcast. But for the sake of this podcast and how it relates to Impact Wrestling, Matt Hardy says, me and my guys, we got a match on Dynamite tomorrow. So we need a warm-up match. And for our warm-up match, we'll take on the Good Brothers. They can take you guys. We'll take them for the Impact Tag Team titles. The titles, of course, that my brother and I won and never lost. But unfortunately, they were taken. I think he says they were taken away from us in a teleportation gimmick. Kind of burying how they kind of took the titles off of them. But then the Good Brothers say, hold on now. You can't just challenge the Good Brothers. How about this? You guys wrestle these guys, and if you win, you get a shot at the Impact Tag Team Championship. And so, thus, our main event for this episode is booked Private Party versus Beer Guns. And that happens, of course, in the main event. So we got some stuff before we talk about that. But when I saw that happen, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, Private Party can really go. And I think those guys can wrestle with anybody. And then Chris Sabin and James Storm are both really good, too.
Oh, hell yeah. Especially Chris Sabin being in there. I don't know. I wish it was Alex Shelley, because imagine Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin and those two. I was like, oh. But, James Storm, I mean, of course he can go, but, he's kind of like the odd man out, I guess, just based on his size, the way that he wrestles compared to Chris Sabin and Private Party.
Right.
But we'll get to that. Number one contenders match for the Impact World Tag Team titles with Private Party from AEW. Holy shit, how cool.
I know, super cool. And before we move on, I do want to point out that Matt Hardy does make a reference, kind of tongue in cheek, to the old Steiner Math promo when he starts talking about how he's about to get a 260% payday, and he's like, I'm getting 30% here, 30% of him, 100% of me, 50% of him, and 50% of him. So that's like 260%. And James Storm, of course, points out, hey, man, your math is way off. Which, of course, and I guess I was told, I didn't watch on Twitch, but I was told on Twitch for the flashback moments, they showed the Scott Steiner math promo twice. During the broadcast.
Yes, I was like, well, I wasn't complaining because I freaking love that promo. It makes me laugh every time.
Yes, and we've said it before in this podcast. Please go to YouTube and watch the Steiner Math promo whenever you need a smile, because it will bring one to your face. But I did want to point out that very fun kind of tongue-in-cheek Matt Hardy reference to the Steiner Math, which of course led Impact to keep playing that commercial. But moving on, we have a Knockouts tag team match between Kimberly and Susan against Jazz and Jordan Grace. So we see Jazz continuing to kind of stick around here and wrestle some, which I was kind of surprised by.
Were you shocked? Yeah, I immediately thought of you because you're like, there's no way she has to retire after this one-on-one with Jordan Grace, passing of the torch. She's gone. And I really thought so too, but I kind of thought she would stick around for a little bit. Remember, I was like, she can still go.
She could.
She's out here.
Yeah, for sure. And, this match I felt like was a little long on the tooth. It goes over 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes. I will say this about Susan, because I said we were going to talk about her, and this is kind of the time to talk about her. Susan, Su Young, Susie, I will give the performer credit that she's able to stay in character and make these gimmicks really her own for each one of these. And that's impressive because she wrestles with 3 different styles, right? She's not wrestling like Su Young when she's
What?
Susan, right? A little bit more refined. I think it's incredibly dumb for her to be wrestling in a suit with a blazer on and sneakers. But I think that's part of it, right? Because Father James Mitchell even is kind of a little like, I don't know, really know. I mean, it's just this is kind of what happened, right? I mean, it's
They're
Susan,
like, ugh, turn
sorry,
her into a Karen.
right? Exactly. So, Susan was fine. Kimberly was fine. Jordan did fine, and so did Jazz. It was an okay match. The 2 teams didn't click for me as much as I had hoped, but it was a pretty good match here to throw on a Tuesday night.
I really liked it. I think Jazz actually looked the best to me that she has in her previous matches for some reason. I feel like maybe in the beginning, she was still a little bit like tight. Maybe it's been a while. Maybe she didn't get to train as much for her comeback, or whatever the reason may be. I feel like this time around she felt a little bit more like flexible, more. There was something different about her in
Sure,
this match.
sure.
Not exactly sure what it was, but to me, I was like, oh, okay, she's out here doing the damn thing.
Yeah,
So
I would say
at
it's the
the end,
best. No, I was just say it's the best tag match that she did, and she's done a couple of those since she came
yeah,
back. Her match with Jordan Grace 1-on-1 at Genesis was really good. So definitely make sure you go back and check that one out if you didn't. But yeah, this is the best she's looked in a tag match. I 100% agree with that.
awesome. And yeah, we at the end we see Susan pinning Jazz with a schoolgirl after interference from Deanna. Of course, she was out there,
Of course.
and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, and we'll talk about this next. So I think it's in the next segment in between matches here. Actually, well, it might be a little bit later. But I don't know where the next challenger for Deanna comes from. I don't know if cheating to beat Jazz fires Jordan back up to challenge again. And then she takes it off her because right now there's nobody that's going to take it off of Deanna. There just isn't. So, which we could see now that we know that Private Party can show up on Impact. Maybe we see Deanna Purrazzo show up and challenge Hikaru Shida. You just never know, right? AEW did, I don't know if you saw this, they announced a tournament for the #1 contenders match for the
Yep.
AEW Women's Championship. I expect to see some Impact wrestlers in there. Quite frankly, I just think it's going to happen. So we'll see, but not to get too in the weeds in that. I'm trying to figure this out. I don't see anyone on that roster challenging Deanna that she hasn't already beaten. That would be a legitimate shot. I don't think they're going to put it on Alicia Edwards anytime soon. No offense to Alicia, but she's not beating Deanna Purrazzo. So we shall see. I mean, the other thing they could do is that the Susan thing can backfire, and then Susan winds up turning back into Si Young and be part of some master
That's what
plan.
I was thinking.
I don't know. Yeah, that feels like the most likely at this point, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, but who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. So at this point, I think we see AC Romero with his Sherlock Holmes hat, which is actually Tommy Dreamer's Sherlock Holmes hat, and Johnny
Okay.
Bravo run up to Tommy Dreamer. They're trying to tell him again, hey man, Larry D was set up. We promise. Larry D was set up. And Tommy's like, come on guys, like stop, knock it off. And Ace is like, no, look, we found I was in the Knockouts locker room at Hard to Kill, which I didn't mention because it wasn't really, I mean, it's kind of, silly.
It was just him walking in there.
Right. He literally just walks into the Knockouts locker room, which for all the new eyes that are watching Hard to Kill, they probably had no idea whatsoever what was going on. Like, why is this giant man wearing a Sherlock Holmes hat and going into the locker room with the women? And then not seen again on the pay-per-view. But he reveals, yeah, it was a little strange. He does reveal that he found the bottle of ring rust that Larry D used to turn into Lawrence D in there, to which Tommy Dreamer says, hey man, a lot of people are using ring rust, and also you shouldn't be going into the Knockouts locker room, right? Thank you,
I'm glad you
Tommy.
said that.
Thank you, Tommy. He's absolutely right. But that leads to them having but kind of like, Tommy, like, we know whose this is. Like, it was in this person's bag. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, of course, that sets up the next segment, which happens later. And then we have Rich Swann come out to the ring to cut a promo. Moose comes out, and Rich tries to get him to wrestle for the Impact Championship at that point. Both are in street clothes. Moose is in his suit. Obviously not going to be a match that happens. Rich says, well, if you're not ready to have a match and I don't want to talk, then I guess there's nothing else what is going to happen? And so he starts a brawl. And this is a pretty good brawl, Sandy.
It was a really good brawl, but ultimately we see Moose just, I mean, he comes out and just gets completely. Wait, am I getting this wrong? Because I could have swore it was Moose on top, and now I have my notes here. It's Swann.
Yeah, Rich Swann stands tall. Yeah. So
there
Moose
we go.
gets
Okay,
Moose
he
gets
whoops Moose.
yeah, Moose gets the early jump, but then Rich, of course, fights out the underdog style. Winds up hitting a Phoenix Splash on a Moose in a three-piece suit.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So interesting there. That title match is going to happen sooner than later. I feel like, Sandy, if I'm projecting here, I feel like Moose is going to take the belt off of Rich Swann
I think so too.
and unify those belts, and then he's going to wrestle Kenny Omega. That's what I want to happen. I want Moose to wrestle Kenny Omega, and it makes more sense if he has the Impact Championship belt when he does it.
100%. I mean, if you think about how WWE picks out their champions, their champions are the faces of these companies, and a criticism that we've heard, that I've seen online, that I personally can agree with, is that Rich Swann doesn't seem like that face of the company that Impact needs at the moment, especially with all the attention that they've been receiving lately. And what better man to be that face of the company if not for the Impact company man that is Moose, especially after this amazing showing at Hard to Kill, especially after the history, especially after this transformation, after his feud with EC3. It's going to be, it's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Hands down.
And it's not that it is a knock on Rich Swann, but we know, like, okay, because it's wrestling, we know kind of what's going on. Rich Swann has, so a bit of he's had trouble in his past, and Moose has also. But Rich Swann's, I believe, was more recent. And like, Rich Swann hasn't tweeted since like 2016 or 2015. He has a Twitter account that's active, but he does not tweet from it. He does not log into it. So when you have people that are your main title holders, you kind of want those people, I think, getting social media followers, getting clicks, getting views. And I feel like that's where Rich Swann is kind of just not there, right? He doesn't hold up that part of it. And I think Moose obviously would. I mean, Moose is larger than life. He's a really good promo. Obviously, he had stuff in his past. That's probably why he's still at Impact, because bigger companies don't necessarily want to put him on their screen because of what's happened in the past. But we'll see. I mean, I think Moose should take it. I think Moose should be the one that wrestles Kenny Omega, just based off of the performance in the six-man tag. But we'll see. We do have one more match here before we get to the main event of the evening, and that is a singles match between Brian Myers, the most professional wrestler, and Fallah Bahh. 4 minutes, 13 seconds. I thought it was fun while it lasted.
It was so fun. So we actually get this match from a backstage segment earlier in the night where Fire and Flava all day or all show, they have been trying to get people to buy tickets to their celebration for becoming the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. So it's kind of funny because they're doing this thing because of Fire, like the Fire Festival. I'm
Right.
sure you've seen the the documentaries on Hulu and Netflix of that shit show that was the Fire Festival. So it's really funny how they're coming off on that. You hear Tennille Dashwood say, or Caleb with a K say, "Is this where we put the orange circles?" Because that's how they promoted the celebrities. Right. And, silly things like that backstage. So they're trying to get people to buy tickets. Nobody's freaking buying it. We see just Brian Myers kind of interrupt whatever was going on back there. Same with Falaba. And that's how we get this match. It was pretty much just they collided, they said some words, disagreement, and then, okay, well, I'll see you in the ring. And that's what happened. And you know what? I was actually really excited for this match because I love Falaba. Brian Myers, he's tremendous. So my main notes for this one is just yes in all capitals because I was excited. Even though it was really short, Brian was selling his ass off for Falaba because, of course, Falaba is huge. But every time he's in that ring, I love it,
Yeah.
He's smooth. He can go in there. He can run. He can hit the ropes. I mean, he's a solid worker. So to see this difference between Brian Myers, who's not a small guy by any means either, sell his ass off, and then also making Falaba look great while Brian Myers came out on top. I thought it was a really fun match.
Yeah.
It served its purpose, and it was good.
I have a question for you, Sandy.
What's up?
If it's not Brian Myers, who is the best seller in Impact Wrestling? Because I think Brian Myers sells better than anyone. But if you had to choose someone else, who would be your best seller?
Raju.
I knew you were going there. just wanted to make sure.
Brian Myers, oh my God, the bumps that he takes, I love. Brian Myers is so soft. He's so underrated, and I cannot believe how terribly used he was in WWE because this man, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean they try to make him basically the modern day Brooklyn Brawler or Brooklyn Jobber kind of and he deserves more than that. And I'm happy that he's winning matches here in Impact. It'll be interesting. He hasn't had any screen time now with Matt Cardona between the pay-per-view and this week's Impact. Which is probably good. I think, kind of just give them some space to be apart. Especially just don't rush them back together because, they were tag team champions at WWE towards the end there, and it wasn't exactly the most over thing in the world. So let those guys breathe as singles.
Black needs to do this on his own. Keep them separated, exactly like you said. No need to rush it. No need to do it at all. To be frank, I wouldn't. That to me doesn't get me excited, doesn't draw me in. I actually want to see them in a feud somehow, but that's really it.
No, exactly. I think we'll get to that. Maybe they'll wrestle over a rare action figure or something. So there are two segments that I want to highlight before we get to the main event. The first one is, of course, one that you alluded to earlier. TJP walks in to Scott D'Amore's office as Rohit Raju is lambasting D'Amore about his lack of an X Division championship. He feels he's been cheated. He feels this and that. And, of course, TJP, and no mask or anything, walks in with the X Division title belt. Scott D'Amore says, "Hey, champ." And then Rohit's like, "What? You said, what? You knew this the whole time?" And then, of course, Scott D'Amore's like, "Yeah, I said no one named TJP could challenge for it. I didn't say TJP couldn't have it." So, then they had a funny kind of laugh at Rohit Raju. Sandy is very pissed. Her face is very angry right now. And then, of course, they say, "Okay, you know what? You want to settle this, Rohit? You have a match against TJP one-on-one next week." And then, of course, Rohit's like, "Perfect, thank you." And he walks out, and then Scott goes, "You think I should have told him it's a non-title match?" And, of course, TJP...
Oh, the disrespect!
It's, they're disrespecting your man, Rohit Raju. So he's got a non-title match next week against TJP. And then the other...
I literally wrote down, Scott D'Amore straight up punking my man. So
And then
upsetting.
the other equally upsetting segment here is that Taya Valkyrie is, of course, backstage talking about her match with Deanna, with the backstage reporter, and she's interrupted by Bravo. And she's like, "What's going on? You're interrupting. Like, go away." And then Tommy and AC show up. They accuse her of setting up Lawrence D, aka Larry D, of shooting Bravo. And she, of course, she first is like, "No way." And then they say that they found her prints on the gun as well as the bottle of ring rest. And then they also mysteriously have footage of it. So, which they didn't
Hmm.
show the footage, they just say they have it. So we'll just take them at their word. To which she reveals that she did do it. She confesses, uh, and then she kind of gets escorted out by security. A touching moment with Rosemary, of course, on the way out. And the funniest part of this, because none of it's really that funny,
Oh my God.
is they ask Tommy, "Well, where do you think she's going?" He goes, "Well, if she's lucky, she'll wind up at Jacksonville State Penitentiary, but she
AKA AEW.
right, but she may wind up in Stanford Correctional Facilities, of course, WWE." He said, "But for 2 years with an option to do a couple more, because and then AC goes, "Well, I just hope they don't send her off to Baltimore again for you ROH heads, because that is, of course, where the
I
ROH bubble
laughed
is."
so hard for this. I was dying.
The
Dying,
fact,
especially when he goes for the 2 year and the option for a third. Oh my God.
right,
I'm laughing
exactly.
so hard right now.
It's the
Oh,
fact that Tommy is able to break the fourth wall and tell these jokes and deliver them also like seriously, like it's just a testament to Tommy Dreamer. And the man is professional wrestling. He just is. I mean,
yeah.
he will work until he dies, and he'll probably die in the ring exactly the way he wants to go, and with a kendo stick in hand. That's how he gets to Valhalla. Like I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and like the big thing is like before they die, they need an axe in their hand so they can go to Valhalla. Well, for Tommy Dreamer, what? That's just Viking lore. That's not a spoiler. Um,
No, Josh, we didn't even get to talk about the Nintendo 64 controller on the freaking barbed wire massacre match.
that's a good point. We'll circle back to that because I'm gonna just finish.
Okay,
I'm gonna
continue.
finish my anecdote here about Tommy Dreamer, and that before he dies, they need to put a kendo stick in his hand, so that he can pass over to Valhalla or wrestling Valhalla because the man. Listen, that's just the way it goes. But you're right. In the barbed wire massacre match, they did inexplicably have a Nintendo 64 controller wrapped in barbed wire as a weapon. That's probably the weapon I think they used that I would not want to get hit by the most. I mean,
Right?
because you can whip that thing pretty hard.
Even
And then,
without barbed wire?
yeah,
Yeah, dude, even without barbed wire, that would hurt.
Nintendo makes a solid controller. I mean,
Yeah. And that shape of it, oh my God, that would hurt so
well,
bad.
those handles can hit different points, Sandy. It's just big damage. I did change our Twitter cover photo to Sammy Callahan holding the barbed wire Nintendo 64 controller.
I saw.
So if
I
you
love it.
yeah, so if you didn't see what we're talking about, just go look at our cover photo. Follow us, subscribe to us on our podcast as well. Rate, review, etc. And then of course retweet everything we tweet. Sandy tweets probably more from the 8-bit suplex Twitter. Um, if it shows a lot of
Gotta keep us
excitement
engaged,
and
Josh.
gifs and hashtags, that's Sandy tweeting. I'm more the old man tweeter where I'll just say something I think is fun and maybe I'll include a picture, but that's basically all I know how to do. So all the real
Trying to get that engagement out there. I'm trying to get us followers, Josh. Gotta do
well,
the
listen,
hashtag
I have
game.
I have noticed, Cindy, that a certain Rohit Raju has liked a couple of our tweets from that
Thank
handle.
you.
So I mean, hey, my hat's off to you. You're getting us noticed by people in the building. If they need us to go to Nashville
Yeah.
for anything, Sandy, I can go to Nashville. That's not a problem. I'll jump in the impact zone.
Yeah.
I will, for sure.
We need to
Just
get on the payroll, brother.
well, and then yeah, but we won't talk about being on the payroll. So so that we still
Keep it
seem
kayfabe.
impartial. Yeah, yeah, exactly. With that, without further ado, I think well, we'll just say, um, we hope that Taya, obviously, her Impact time is done. It's sad. It sucks.
I was so sad. There's been a
I
lot of goodbyes lately. We've had the Rascals, we've had Ethan Page, Madison Brain, now Taya. I mean,
I know.
it's been a lot emotionally, especially since we've gotten the hang of these people, seeing them in storylines, seeing them wrestle in this Impact ring, and we're kind of just getting acclimated over the past however many months we've been doing this, and now we've been saying goodbye to a lot of people lately, and it's like, oh
Too
God,
many.
change is coming, but it's a good change. Overall, it's going to be good. Whenever one of those guys leaves, hey, who else can come in?
Right.
The
And
opportunities are
yeah,
just completely endless.
yeah, and I trust that Impact will pull in someone. You know, there's some female wrestlers that are uh, available or coming available. NWA doesn't have a lot of their talent under contract anymore. Don't think they could land a Thunder Rosa, but maybe an Allison Kay. There's some people out there for sure that they could
Eliana de
sign.
los Santos.
Hey, exactly, exactly. You never know. Um, I mean, hey, this is get you in the impact zone, Sandy. Um,
Right?
hey, listen, just wrestle on Explosion. Do a little tryout match. We'll see how it goes. Listen,
We'll
I'll be
see.
your ringside manager, of course. So
Oh, perfect.
I can take bumps. You know, as Bobby Heenan style. But yeah, no, we'll see what happens. With what happens with Taya, I feel like I have a pretty good idea where she's going. We know where her husband works, of course, John Morrison. So I think that probably buries the lead some. But wherever she goes, she's going to be an excellent performer. She's a fantastic wrestler, um, world traveled, excellent, excellent, excellent wrestler. Um, Wish her the best. Sucks that we won't be covering her on this podcast anymore. And like you
Yeah.
said, we've been saying that too much. Um, but that's okay because now we get to talk about one of the top up and coming tag teams in North American professional wrestling, and that is of course the team of Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, the team Private Party, accompanied to the ring, of course, by Big Money Matt Hardy, taking on the Beer Guns Chris Sabin and James Storm. But this is a nice little wrinkle here, Sandy, because ringside is Tony Khan, the CEO, founder of AEW. And I was just absolutely blown away that Tony Khan was in the impact zone. That was very strange for me.
It completely blew everyone's mind away. The Twitch thing was freaking popping.
Yeah,
Everyone was like, what are they doing? And of course, commentary did a very good job at making us be like, holy shit, this is huge. Like, what is
right.
happening here? And Tony Khan, all cute. I think he has like a little Star Trek little notebook that he's writing notes on.
Yes,
Super cute.
it was awesome.
Yeah, it felt like a huge, like another freaking rabbit out of a bag. They already surprised us earlier with Matt Hardy being there and Private Party being in this number one contenders match. And then they pulled this other rabbit out of the freaking hat with Tony Khan and Jerry Lynn being there. And then not even that, another freaking rabbit out of the hat. I keep wanting to say bag. Out of the hat with the finish of this match.
Yeah,
I was a little surprised.
yeah. I mean, I felt like Private Party was going to win, right? I thought they would win with a Matt Hardy interference. And if we haven't mentioned this guy who was sitting with Tony Khan, which is of course Jerry Lynn. If you follow wrestling at all, you know who Jerry Lynn is. You know how important he is behind, backstage, agenting matches, producing stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think if you look at um, the match as a whole, really, really good. And then we get, of course, the surprise of all surprises with Jerry Lynn jumping in, grabbing the foot of Chris Sabin, and causing the victory to go towards Private Party. Setting up, of course, a match with the Good Brothers.
And that is just absolutely crazy. So, one, the fact that Private Party won, it doesn't matter if there was interference from Jerry Lynn. the fact that they won and now they're the number one contenders for the Impact Tag Team titles, it just absolutely blows my mind. You know, like I thought, okay, these young guys with Matt Hardy, they're gonna come in here, they're gonna have a great match, you know, this and that. But this ended up happening, which blew my mind. And Josh, I don't know if you watched. We're recording late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. So I'm not sure if you got to catch any of the AEW episode, but I think they're teasing slowly but surely a heel turn for Private Party, especially with, you know, the Matt Hardy thing that he was talking about with, you know, getting a cut of their pay for all these matches.
Sure.
At AEW, I'm not sure if you saw, they're having a match, and I think it's Cassidy. Cassidy throws a chair over to, oh my gosh, what's his name?
Mark Wayne?
The other. Yes. Throws a chair uses a chair in the match while the ref wasn't looking. And, you know, Cassidy's on the outside like, did I do that? Yes, I did. Like with this face, like this, like, oh, I did that. Like some like mischievous face. And his partner's over by the turnbuckle like, oh, I like it. Like their faces were priceless. They told the exact story that they needed to tell, which was, oh, that was devious. That was evil. That was messed up. But fuck it, I like it.
Yeah,
so
win at all
it's
costs.
really interesting. Yeah. So
yeah,
nice
I
little
didn't get to see it, but I did follow along with some group text messages and different things like that. Because I was in class, so I didn't get to watch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'll watch tomorrow. But yeah, no, it was really. I'm interested to see kind of what happens with Private Party and the Good Brothers. Do they dare make a switch and put the tag titles on Private Party? Or does Kenny Omega cause them to lose and keep the tag titles on the Good Brothers? Does Don Callis get involved? It'll be really interesting to see kind of what direction they go with this, because it really could be either way.
Yeah, they could take this anywhere, and it's just exciting. It's just so exciting that having the opportunities to do something completely out of the ordinary, completely fresh and new and exciting. It's just such a fun time in wrestling, dude. I'm so excited. They got me hooked.
I am excited also. And also, and this actually shows a pretty good transition here. I'm excited, Sandy, about what 2021 means for video games, because there are some hot titles coming out. We are hopefully going to see inventory levels come back for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. We're hopefully going to get more news on Nintendo about maybe a potential Switch Pro. So we'll see how that goes. But Sandy, I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of what video games you're looking forward to the most. And we said that we were going to do probably about 3 or so each, but of course that's never a hard and fast rule with us. We kind of make our own rules as we go. But what's the first game you want to highlight, Sandy, that you are excited for?
Okay, so one that we've already kind of talked about a little tiny bit when we did our Resident Evil segment was that was around the time that they announced the new Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village,
Yes.
which, funny enough, today, right now, it's 1:13 a.m. It is January 2021. And we are actually, later on today, there's going to be a showcase of Resident Evil Village, which we will see a new trailer. So very exciting news. I can't wait to see this tomorrow or later today. So, you know, we did get to see a little glimpse of it this past week. Everyone's been talking about her, the tall, evil old lady with the hat, with a giant freaking hat, on this new little teaser that we received last week. So the internet's been going wild. She is beautiful. Apparently what we're seeing here is that with this new Resident Evil Village, it's not just going to be about zombies. So they're doing something new, something exciting. We're going to see possibly werewolves. This tall lady could be, she's a vampire is what it looks like. And, you know, at first, you know, everyone was talking about the angle, like, okay, this lady, I think maybe it's just the angle of the camera, but no, she appears to be a really tall lady. And like I said, the internet's just been absolutely freaking out about it, which I have too. She's beautiful, and everyone, of course, talking about her beautiful looks. But I am freaking excited for this showcase. Hopefully we'll have some announcements related to the franchise as a whole, not just in terms of video games, because there's been a few rumors going around of a new Resident Evil movie reboot. Perhaps a Netflix series. So there's just lots of excitement going around the Resident Evil franchise. And I, for one, am excited for the possibility of, of vampires and different type of monsters and villains that we've seen compared to, just zombies. That actually has been a criticism from some hardcore fans that are like, no, I just want my zombies, damn it.
Right.
Those same fans also kind of shit on Resident Evil 7, which I thought was freaking spectacular. So whatever their opinion. But as we talked about before, Resident Evil in Japan, the games are called Biohazard, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct.
So it could be anything. It's not just a zombie franchise. It's just what ended up kind of going to that. But as we've seen in the series and throughout the years, it's not just zombies. That was a perfect way to introduce the game series at first because, for so many years, we were so captivated by the idea of zombies. They're a huge thing in pop culture. Now, I think that's cooled down a lot, especially after we got so many zombie movies, The Walking Dead, all the video games. Now it's cooled off a little bit, which is expected. Things get popular, then they lose popularity, and then they come back and become popular again in 10 years. So for me, it's just exciting to see them being able to evolve, kind of go along with the times. Hey, let's vampires, werewolves, let's do all this crazy shit, and I am here for it. I'm freaking excited.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a huge title. A lot of anticipation. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, as listeners of this podcast will know. And I really am looking forward to it. And I'm hopefully going to have a next gen system by the time that one comes out, because I want to play that next gen for sure. So similarly, but also very not similar at all, the first game I'm going to talk about, Sandy, is a sequel entry, if you will, into a franchise, a long-standing franchise. For me, the first thing I'm going to talk about is new Pokemon Snap. So the original Pokemon Snap came out in 1999 on the Nintendo 64.
Oh my god.
Which seems like so long ago.
Holy shit.
I remember playing that game and trying to get 100%, and in the days of Game Facts, trying to figure out where that last Doug Trio was. But it's for those that aren't familiar, Pokemon Snap is a on-rails shooter set in the world of Pokemon. Now, when I say shooter, I don't mean guns. I mean a camera. You are literally taking pictures of Pokemon in their wild habitats. And your hovercraft basically goes on rails, right? If you're not familiar with a rail shooter, it's like every arcade shooting game you ever played. You progress automatically, and you just have to take care of what's in front of you as you're progressing. There's no going back. So it's a first-person aspect. It's really fun. At least the first one was, and I'm excited to see. Hopefully, you can, go to different places and see Pokemon from different regions. I think that'd be really cool. Different variations. But yeah, it's coming out on the Switch, and it's set to release at the end of April. A little bit different. This one is produced by Bandai Namco, whereas the first one was produced by HAL Laboratory, who did a lot of those Nintendo 64 games, did a lot of Nintendo exclusive work. But the game, of course, will be published by the Pokemon Company and Nintendo together, and it's gonna be awesome. I'm super looking forward to it.
So, Josh, did you ever play Pokemon Snap after that initial time when you were a kid and discovered it for the first time?
No, I didn't, because I didn't have a copy of it. My neighbor Matt had a copy. So when I played it at his house, and then we were kind of done with it. It was just kind of done.
So, you know how some games hold to the test of time, like you can play them over and over and over.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this one does not.
It does. It's so short and so easy. Oh my God. So I bought it for the virtual console, I believe, on my Wii U. It has to be my Wii U. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my
Hmm.
Wii U. So, and I was so freaking excited because I just have such fond memories of playing Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64 when it first came out. It was such a life-changing game, and it was just so different from the other Pokemon games, and it got you into their habitat, their world, and you're just kind of an spectator. You know, a lot of the Pokemon games that we see, that type of game works, but for so many years, people have been like, we want to actually be able to walk around their world, maybe in first person, maybe like a 3D platformer where we can be there with them and actually catch them rather than doing that like role play type of battle. So people have always wanted that type of game. So Pokemon Snap I think was like the closest thing at that time.
Yeah.
And to this well actually no, because I haven't played the Let's Go I'm getting ahead of myself. That time it was like, this is it. This is as close as we're gonna get, right? But it's so nostalgic. So for me, I am so excited for this new Pokemon Snap. So hopefully, I'm talking loud enough for my boyfriend to hear me in the other room, so he can buy it for me. Because I am so excited to play. I think it's going to be so much fun to play it on the Switch, play it everywhere that you want to. Before we were limited to just the Nintendo 64. So now, if you want to freaking take pictures of Pokemon while we're on the bus or on the subway or just taking a walk, we can do so. So that's very exciting. And hopefully, so we actually touched on this topic earlier, Josh, where a lot of these games that have been in production and are set to be releasing soon, they're kind of stuck in this weird spot where, like we saw with the whole Cyberpunk uh, fiasco, where they
Right.
were in development, then they move them. They're like, okay, no, we have to take advantage of all this new technology on the next gen consoles, the new Xbox and new PS5, but which have had limited availability and of course pricing. We have come through a very tough year. Many people can't afford that right now, and but they're putting all their money on the next gen, and it's like, okay, so for us previous gen owners, are we kind of just stuck? Do we want to dish out the $60 for a new game that's going to be faulty, buggy, glitchy, kind of like the situation with Cyberpunk? Are it's
Right.
one of those tricky things, and this happens every time there is a new console. It's like, okay, do I want to play it now, or should I hold out until I get the new console and I can take advantage of that? So lots of different determining factors go into that, both from the developer of the game to the people who finance the games to us as a consumer and the gamers. I know
Right.
for me, it's probably going to be a while since I can get before I can get my hands on a next gen console. Um, hopefully my Switch can still hold out until even past the time where maybe Nintendo does announce a Switch Pro, which has been rumored. So I guess we'll see. My Xbox One is still holding out barely. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. So hopefully they'll still do some games for these current gen and kind of cut us some slack. And no more
Yeah.
situations a la Cyberpunk.
Well, like I mentioned, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and while it's a really good game and really fun, and most of it looks pretty good, there is, I mean, the PS4 has a reputation of sounding like an aircraft taking off, and it really feels like that. It's very loud. The fan is running constantly. It's really pushed to its limits. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll see kind of how that goes. But yeah, speaking of next gen consoles, another game I want to say that I'm really looking forward to, Sandy, is Horizon Forbidden West. This is going to be on everyone's most anticipated list. If you're a Sony gamer, if you played Horizon Zero Dawn on the PS4, it was one of the better open world games I've ever played. It's incredible. Of course, you play as Aloy, um, and it's this very strange post-apocalyptic metal dinosaurs, kind of primitive, kind of not kind of world.
Ooh.
It's a lot of fun. If you missed out on Horizon Zero Dawn, they did port it to PC, and of course, it's still available on PS4. And then Horizon Forbidden West is slotted to release for the PS5 later this year. Um, they're saying right now it's going to have a PS4 release also. I'm sure that it will because it is a first party Sony game, but it's going to obviously
Oh
be
yeah.
designed to play on the PS5. especially with load screens and stuff really becoming a thing of the past. I'm hopeful to get a PS5 this year and be able to play it the way the game is intended. Um, because man, I had so much fun with the first one. I can only imagine the second one because the first one I think takes place kind of in like post-apocalyptic Utah. I want to say like Utah, Colorado, like in the mountains there. And then this
Huh.
one is kind of set in the Pacific Coast, kind of like San Francisco, like going in Seattle, like that kind of area, um, up the Northwest. So that'll be really cool.
That sounds really fun. I never got to play the first one. Of course, I'm still boycotting Sony PlayStations. um, if somebody gifted me one, I wouldn't turn it down. So if anyone's listening and wants to buy me one, but I will not personally buy a freaking Sony PlayStation. That's just my policy, and it has been for many, many years since the
Right.
PlayStation freaking 2. I never got the 3, never got the 4. Do not plan on getting the 5, but who knows? So yeah, I've missed out on a lot of games, and unfortunately, like I haven't really heard too much about that one. If you're saying great things about it, I mean, it must have been amazing. And that one, along with The Last of Us, I mean, that's another one that I never really got to play because of the whole Sony situation.
Sure.
Maybe
Well, I
we'll
mean,
make
you
up
can
one day.
definitely, yeah, you can definitely go and check those out, like YouTube playthroughs too. Like if you just want to kind of experience the
That's what I
story
do.
and
Yeah,
yeah, but definitely
but
look
it's not
into
the
Horizon
same.
Zero Dawn. I know it's not the same, but Horizon Zero Dawn is definitely awesome. I will say probably watching a gameplay walkthrough of that one might be a bit more boring, just because the story takes a much longer time because you do have to like level up and get skill points and different things like that. A little bit more RPG-ish than like a Last of Us is. Um, but anyhow, what's another one that you want to talk about, Sandy?
So this one, I have recently so I'm a huge Lord of the Rings freaking dork, and the books too. Like I read The Hobbit in middle school and The Lord of the Rings in high school, and then when the movies came out, I was one of those dweebs on the very first day of release. Like not even the first day. Like I was there for the opening freaking in the movie theater. I had to get like
Sure.
those special tickets to be able to go because they would sell out right away, and I'd be there at midnight. I'm like, I have to see this movie right now. So lots of memories when it comes to that. And Logan actually had never seen the Lord of the Rings movies. So in this household, it's like against my
Yeah.
religion, blasphemy, right? So we have been doing little marathons here and there for the movies. We just finished the Fellowship of the Ring. We just finished the Two Towers. We still have to watch the Return of the King, and then we have to move on to the other three, the Hobbit movies. So one of my anticipated games coming out is going to be the Lord of the Rings Gollum. So I feel like this one's actually kind of been kept under wraps for me. I mean, it's not one of those games that's like right in your face, like, oh, it's a brand new game. But to me, like when it was announced, when was this announced? Like 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Um, I was so excited. So this is Lord of the Rings Gollum. So it's going to be an action adventure game from Daedalic Entertainment. It's a German studio, famous for making my favorite type of games, point and click adventure games. I really have to check out more of their stuff though, but that's what they're known for. I found out. Of course, these are like two of my favorite things: point and click adventure games and freaking Lord of the Rings. And Gollum, I freaking love Gollum. Like the actor, you guys should have heard me yesterday watching. Every time he talks or does anything, I'm like, oh, he's so cute. Like he's so ugly, he's so cute, but I love him.
Did they
So
get did they get Andy Serkis to voice him for the game?
no, I don't think so. And he looks a lot different. So this production
Okay.
actually doesn't have anything to do with Warner Brothers, which I believe is who did the movies, if I'm not mistaken. So they're not involved like they were with the Middle Earth series.
Okay.
But it's still going to be what we've heard from the maker of this game is that they're still going to be true to the fantasy world that we all know and love from the books, from the movies. They're still very spot on, even though Gollum looks very, very different from from the movies. So he's not doesn't look exactly like that. So
Sure.
different things there, but it was initially confirmed for a 2021 release on PC and all relevant consoles, and since then it has been confirmed to be a next gen title. So there might have been some, again, kind of like that stuck in limbo thing where, oh, it was originally designed for these consoles and now the new ones came out and it's like, oh shit, okay, now we have to go ahead and and do it for the next gen. So hopefully we'll see it across the board, but it might just be a next gen title, which will probably push me into getting an Xbox Series X down the line so I can play this freaking game. So I'm just so excited. I'm actually I'm so bad at this. Like my gaming backlog is just so bad. I have the freaking um the Middle Earth games, the
Hmm.
the Mordor. Well, I even forget what they were called. I have them, and I just never got around to playing them. So maybe
I
while I
played the
wait for them,
first one, and the first one was pretty good.
they're
Um,
good.
but I did not play the second one, which I heard was okay. Like the first one got repetitive some, but it was it was a very Assassin's Creed-esque. Lots of sneaking
Yeah,
around, raiding, and different things like that.
but you know what? I have them, and I've always meant to play them, so they're in my backlog. Maybe I can clear them before Gollum comes out. So this is kind of the same kind of situation where it's going to be a lot of exploring. And this is actually going. Everything that happens here will be Gollum's story before what happened in the Lord of the Ring books and movies. So we'll get to know a lot more about, once he attains the ring, what happened to him then. So we know that he had it for a while. We know that he was in this cave. We went through this transformation. So now we'll actually get to play as him and kind of discovering his story a little bit, which I think is so intriguing and so exciting. And I cannot freaking wait. I think this may be a day one game for me.
Yeah, no, it should definitely be good. Um, we've been talking about games that we are certain, or mostly certain, are for sure going to come out in 2021. There are a bunch of games that are currently slated for 2021. I don't think we're going to see them. Things like the God of War sequel, which is still technically untitled, but people think that it's called Ragnarok, but people think they're not saying it's called Ragnarok because they don't want to get in trouble with Disney because of Thor Ragnarok. So who knows, but what's going on with that.
Oh,
Um, who knows, right? I mean, the new Fable is slated for 2021. I don't see that coming out anywhere close to 2021. That's probably
uh,
summer, if not fall next year. Like I just Fable games never come out when they're supposed to, and especially in the COVID world right now, I just don't see it happening. Um,
yeah.
there is one other title that you and I both really really are looking forward to, and I think this is a good one for us to end on. Um, I don't, in my gut, I think it's spring of next year. But currently it's still slated for 2021. And that is, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. We've talked a lot about Zelda on this podcast. We're both very passionate about that series. Um, you spoke about on our last episode playing Hyrule Warriors, getting some of that backstory. I want to know what happens next after the events of Breath of the Wild. I want to know, like, is it all going to be in Hyrule still? Is it going to be, you know what I mean? Like, I really, really, really want this game to be awesome. Like the last one was incredibly awesome. Um, but I don't know. It's just Nintendo's not shown anything, and they don't normally, right? So it's hard to kind of get a
Yeah.
grasp. But they showed that first teaser trailer, and that's kind of it. And that was 2019, I think they showed that. Is that
Yeah,
right?
E3 2019.
So I mean, it's so hard because I think we're going on almost like 4 years since we saw the little teaser for Metroid Prime. So you never
Oh
know.
God, I completely forgot about that.
Right, exactly. Nintendo, I think maybe Nintendo learned their lesson about announcing things too early, um, when they're just still years away. Because I mean, Metroid Prime's eventually going to reach Half-Life 3 status where people just don't believe it's coming ever. Um,
Oh
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's a
So
lost cause.
exactly. So Maybe we'll get Metroid Prime in the next console. But we are going to get Breath of the Wild 2 on the Switch, or possibly the Switch Pro if that is a thing that they're working on. And this year is the 35th anniversary of Zelda. So I don't know. They could just do a re-release of some old Zelda stuff for the 35th anniversary, much like we got with Mario. We didn't get a new Mario game for the 35th anniversary. But right now it's looking like, they're still saying 2021 for Breath of the Wild 2.
They still are, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
don't know, but
my all my dimes, all my money is on, and of course my dreams and hopes and everything is hopefully on that 2021 release date. Even if it's early 2022. Oh my God, no, that sounds so far away from now, Josh. No, it has to happen this year, or I don't know how I'll cry every day.
right, it's tough, and because obviously Nintendo doesn't have a history of releasing unfinished games, especially for their first party, their exclusives. So it's definitely a situation where they're going to release that game when it's ready and not when we want it, right? So on the one
And
hand, you
I
do
love
what,
them for that. So I'm not even ever going to judge or question their decision to do that, because every time it has come to that, the finished product has not disappointed. Uh, Case in point, Breath of the Wild. That game to this day is the Nintendo Switch's #1 best-selling and just overall best title. And
right,
it got 10s across the board, 9s, 9.5s. It won all these awards, and that came from this game that was in development for the Wii U for so long before that. So if they tell me to wait, I will wait. I will still cry, but I will wait. And it's going to be, I mean, this was my #3 game, and I put the best for last. Breath of the Wild 2. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent on YouTube with the wild fan theories as to what that one little trailer that we got, what it all meant, literally breaking every little thing down, including Zelda's haircut in it. Like, what does the haircut mean? So I spent an embarrassing amount of hours on YouTube with all of that. So that is my #1 anticipated game for 2021. Fingers crossed, 2021. And the
yeah, I
35
mean,
year anniversary, holy shit.
I know, it's a game that is older than both of us. It's a game that we definitely need another Zelda. Um, Maybe we'll get an HD remake of Twilight Princess or something of that nature this year. But it's really hard to tell. I mean,
No, hey, do you recall? Like, I think it was around the summer of this very recent past year. I think maybe August. And Amazon listing went live for Skyward Sword. I think it was like maybe
right.
Amazon UK, and it was like one of those like those links for it, but then they killed it right away. So hey, maybe Skyward Sword, which I would 100% pre-buy that because it was very frustrating on the Wii. And I know you said wait, did you say you hated it or I hated it? I hated it, but I loved
Well, I didn't like
love
it.
hate relationship.
Yeah, no,
So hey, we can
the
retry it on
controllers
the
are booty.
Switch. Yeah, it was tough, but if they release that, if they do a port or a remake, hopefully, well, I don't know. People are
I
always
don't.
kind of like stuck between.
eh, Nintendo's if they do it, they're probably just gonna emulate it like they did for the Super Mario 35th anniversary. But I mean, well, anything we get Zelda related this year, we'll be happy with. Obviously, we did just get Hyrule Warriors, which I've not yet played. But yeah, I
So
mean,
good.
we'll see what happens. 2021, it's got a brighter feel to it. We don't have this impending doom feel anymore. At least I don't feel that way like we did in 2020. I think things, are going to get better all around the world. I think we're going to continue to fight off this virus. We're going to get the vaccines out. Everyone's going to continue to stay safe, and hopefully we can beat this thing, and that games can get back to normal production. Wrestling can get back to happening, so that you can have more matches, Sandy. I'm looking forward to
Yes.
seeing you at Retro Rat Saturday. If you are local, make sure you come out and check out Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling at Retro Rat in Largo, Florida. Saturday.
Yeah.
Doors are at 2:30, right, Sandy?
Yes, and bell time at 3.
Bell at 3. Make sure you go out there. Check out the store, too. They got some cool stuff. A lot of Funko Pops, a lot of wrestling-related memorabilia as well. As always, check out all the shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Our show, of course, 8-Bit Suplex. You got All Things Elite. You got Ricky and Clive. You got One Nation Radio. You got Keeping It Strong Style, of course, the Ace of Podcast. You got Great Match Generator, Grave Consequences, and, of course, Grown Men Watch the Shit, which is our favorite title of any podcast. Except, even more than ours. But, yeah, definitely go and check out our T-shirt on prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. Follow us on Twitter at 8-Bit Suplex. You follow me at Laughlin_Josh. You follow Sandy at Sailor Zelda. We're pretty active on there. I joke that I'm bad at Twitter, and I am. But if you follow me, I'll probably follow you back, and I'll probably post something funny about eating pub subs, even though they give me terrible stomach aches. Because it's true. It kills me, but I still keep going back. I can't stop. But anything else you want to say, Sadie, before we sign off here?
No, thank you guys so much for listening, for your support. Please leave us a review if you like us and subscribe. And thank you so much for tuning in. I think you covered everything, Josh. I think we are all caught up on Impact. Sorry again last week. Such technical difficulties. Much time not had. Wait, I'm turning to the dope. No.
we were logged in on Skype, trying to record, and it just didn't happen. We tried to do it after Hard to Kill just to make sure, and before Hard to Kill, and to do a preview, and neither happened. But we're happy that we got to talk about it anyways, and whatever else is going on in the world of Impact Wrestling. But of course, I do want to make sure that I follow up on what Sandy said, where she said, if you like us, give us a rating and subscribe. And I'm going to just say, if you don't like us, give us a 5-star rating and subscribe anyways, because it costs you nothing to do that. And that'd just be a really nice thing. And, start off 2021 with some good karma. That's all. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, but yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you, technical issues notwithstanding, next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Yo, chicken so crispy, sauce so sweet. Del Tacos, your tacos make crispy leave. A crispy chicken taco with honey and mango. Del, you make my heart go bang, bang, bang. Only $1 for me to savor. I'm in love with honey mango flavor.
Slide into Del Taco for the Honey Mango Crispy Chicken Taco. Del Taco's newest Crispy Chicken Taco is just $1. Price and participation may vary.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.